Mind if I just pick your brains for a minute? I'm a plasterer by trade and I'm on a job, right? It just seems like there's a lot of cracks on one particular wall and it looks like something's dropped, but to me it does at least. The only good news is the cracks are following the lines of the block work. Could that just be old settlement cracks or is it something to worry about? Okay, so I've had a structural engineer round and he said everything is looking alright. Now, that is good news, and I'm just going to say before you carry on anywhere, if you have got any weird looking cracks or anything that looks suspect, just get it checked out, because if it is late signs of subsidence or anything a bit more sinister, then it's better to know than just cover it up. Now with this certain situation we know it's safe, so scrape back the loose plaster and what we're left with is blown areas and we've got cracks, so we're going to have to deal with both of them things. I'm going to show you two specific ways on how to do it, but the first thing we're going to talk about what to use. We're going to use British gypsum bonding for this area. Now I've got another section over here that's got blown plaster, it's got brickwork showing, and that's a bit deeper. I'm going to show you that in a separate situation, but this is just down to the base coat of plaster. This hasn't gone down to the brick, so because of that we're going to use British gypsum bonding. Now the reason is that's designed for medium to low suction backgrounds. So my general rule of thumb is if it isn't brickwork, exposed brickwork, you use British gypsum bonding. And the other instance, if it is brickwork, we use hard wall. I'm going to go into that in a minute separately, like I said. The first step, we're literally just going to fill in the holes. So nice tight coat. We're just literally laying into the gaps, getting a tight coat. So what we don't want it too thick. I'll explain why in a minute, but try and get it, fill it for now. We're just going to get it in and then we're going to rule it flat. So now once you got your bonding on, this is a Derby, any straight edge will do. We're just gonna put it flat to the wall and rule it flat. So that bit's on. If there's any gaps that are a bit low, fill them in again. There's a little bit of an area where it's a bit shy, so fill in that low spot. And then we're going to rule it again. That is a pretty good starting point. But what I like to do is I like to reinforce the wall that's been affected. So I'm going to show you that now. The next part, we're going to use this. This is render mesh, and this is basically a massive roll of scrim tape. Let me unroll it for you. I've got that. This is what we're going to use to reinforce the wall and basically deal with the cracks that have already been in place. Now we know it's structurally sound, we just need to make sure them cracks won't come back again. If we leave it, there's potential for them to reappear. So what I've done is I've cut some lengths, the length of the wall, rolled them up. These are cut, ready to go. So now what we're going to do is apply a tight coat of bonding to the whole area. Let me show you how to do that. It's more like a thicker skidger consistency now. So if you look, it's a bit of a wetter mix. It's just going to make it easier to spread throughout the whole area. So I'm just going to do a tight coat around the whole area. We don't want it too thick because you'll struggle to bed the mesh in. So a nice tight coat, and we're just going to be working in 1 metre panels at a time. Now I've got that bonding applied. What we're going to do is let the roll go, offer it up to the wall, give it an initial little scrape. And now this is why you want the bonding to be slightly wetter, because it just comes right through to the mesh. Make sure it's all bedded in there. Working top down, coming down with it. And the other reason you want to do little panels is you don't want the bonding to dry up too fast. You need to be able to get the bonding through the mesh, and then you can rule it flat. So we're just going to get that flattened in, get that whole area exposed. Then we know the mesh is nicely bedded into the wall. Now once that section's on, I'm going to give it another rule. So coming up. That is literally it. That section is now covered. It's bonded out flat, and we've also put an extra layer of protection to make sure them cracks won't reappear again. Now that is a great way of doing it. I'm just gonna carry on for another panel, because that's where the cracks stop. And then we'll look at this one where the brick is exposed, and that's a bit of a harder job. So let's crack onto that. So here's a patch we're working on. Now for this, we want to be using British Strip hardwall. This is the best stuff for brickwork. Bonding, it'll just suck all the moisture out of it. It's just not the right product to use. So for fresh brick like this, you want to be using hardwall, and the process is very much the same. We've got quite a thick mix here. We want to do one initial coat on the brickwork. So one tight coat, a lot of pressure behind the trowel. We're just pushing the plaster into the brick, and that way it's going to give us a nice strong bond. What we don't want is to whack a big thick layer on and the underside isn't sticking to the brick. So a lot of pressure right into the brickwork, all around the exposed area. Push it in, as so. And when you're preparing the brickwork before plastering with hardwall, you don't want to use PVA, you just want to splash some water on it. Hardwall relies on suction, so it needs the brick to pull the moisture out of the hardwall plaster, and that's when it's going to give it that initial bond. It's going to help it prime itself to the brickwork. So don't PVA it. You don't want to kill the suction with this stuff. Unlike bonding, it's good to PVA the areas, the exposed, blown areas with bonding. With hardwall, you just want to use water on the brick. That's it. So again, just fill in them low sections. And then once you've got your initial coat, you can start adding your thickness. So now we can start building it up. Now because it's just a patch, it's a bit easier to deal with. So, you know, put it on quite thick. Don't try and trowel it flat. We're going to use a rule. It's always the case. So add the thickness. Working the whole area. Now we've got our initial coat on, we can build it up. We just need to get a lot of pressure in that first setting so it's got a nice bond. This is a lovely product to use actually. I much prefer this to bonding. I think it's a lot creamier. You've got a longer amount of time to use the product. The only thing is when you're using hardwall, the suction's very high when you plaster onto it. So that's why generally with patching, we use bonding because the suction's less aggressive. So they're the pros and cons to the products. So let's build this area up. Now the exact same thing as before, the principles still apply. We're going to rule it flat. This is the derby, you can use a feather edge, any straight edge, it doesn't matter. But I'm just going to rule it off. Take off the excess. When you are ruling, rendering, flattening, it's good to go both ways because this way you're going to get a straighter gauge. So I'm also going to rule horizontally there. So that's that. So that's how you fill the blown areas. Now you've got two options on what you want to do next. You can patch plaster this area. If you want to learn the full process on patch plastering, click this video here. Or you do what I recommend and you skim the whole wall and you get it done properly. Now if you want to learn the full process on how to do that, click that video there. Follow them two and you can carry on with this journey on getting this wall dead flat. Cheers.